The academy at Lumeris Prime was a place of prestige, filled with nobles, warriors, and scholars from across the galaxy. Its marble corridors stretched high with banners of alien clans, its halls buzzing with the ambitions of young heirs. Among them strode students wrapped in silks and armored robes, their voices proud, their futures already set. But none of them paid attention to the human with the mop and bucket. Elias had worked there for years as a janitor, scrubbing floors long after the lectures had ended, polishing glass until he could see his own tired face staring back. To most, he was invisible, just another menial worker. Some students didn't even know his name, only that the quiet human bowed slightly when they passed, and then bent again to his work. He preferred it that way. At night, when the academy hushed, Elias would sit in the supply closet, sipping lukewarm tea, listening to the hum of the heating vents. His back ached, his hands were calloused, and yet he was content. He had no desire to be part of the noble games, no need to stand among the heirs who wielded blades made of starlight, until one night, when he forgot to button his collar. It happened in the library. Elias had been sweeping near the great windows, the stars burning outside like cold jewels. A group of students lingered late, whispering over their datapads. One of them, a young alien woman with silver-green skin, glanced up and froze. Her gaze caught the edge of his neck, where his shirt had slipped open with sweat and movement. Her eyes widened. "Where did you get that?" she whispered. Elias stiffened, immediately tugging his collar closed. But it was too late. The girl had already seen. A faint tattoo curled along his skin. Not ink, but something deeper, etched in strange geometry that seemed to shimmer faintly under the library's blue light. He said nothing, hoping she would dismiss it, but she did not. The next day, whispers spread through the academy. By the time he arrived to mop the atrium, heads turned. Students who once ignored him now stared openly. Some looked in awe, others in suspicion. One even dropped his datapad, eyes widening as if he'd seen a ghost. It was not long before he was summoned. The headmistress of the academy, a towering figure with crystalline horns, sat in her chamber, her gaze sharp as blades. Elias stood before her, mop still in hand, collar fastened high. "You carry a mark," she said slowly. "A mark that has not been seen in over a century." Elias's jaw tightened. "It is only an old scar," he muttered. But she leaned forward. "Do not play the fool. That tattoo, those are the lines of the Oathbound." A silence stretched between them. The Oathbound, a name whispered in legend. They had been warriors beyond compare, bound to protect, sworn to causes greater than kingdoms. Their order had disappeared after the last war, erased from the galaxy. None survived, or so history claimed. Elias dropped his eyes. That life is dead. The headmistress did not press further, but the academy had changed for him. Students who once laughed at the janitor now followed him at a distance, whispering. Some bowed. Others challenged him, demanding proof. It was the latter that forced his hand. A duel had broken out in the courtyard between two noble heirs, blades of plasma sparking, arrogance clashing against arrogance. Elias had been sweeping nearby when one of them stumbled too close, sword swinging wild. The crowd screamed. Before he realized what he was doing, Elias dropped the mop and caught the blade with his bare hand. The courtyard froze. The weapon hummed, heat singing against his skin. But he did not flinch. With a twist, he disarmed the air, sending the blade spinning harmlessly into the fountain. The other heir staggered back, eyes wide, while Elias simply released a slow breath. "Children," he muttered, shaking his head. The crowd erupted. From that day, there was no hiding. The academy pressed him with questions. Elders arrived to see for themselves, and even the planetary council sent envoys. Elias found himself standing before nobles and generals, asked to explain why a mere janitor bore the mark of the Oathbound. He told them little, only that he had once served, long ago, and that he wanted nothing more than peace. But fate is rarely kind to those who try to hide from it. A week later, the academy was attacked. It came at dawn, shadows falling from the sky. Raiders in sleek black ships, mercenaries from the outer worlds. They struck with fire and smoke, their weapons shattering gates, their voices howling for blood. Students scattered in panic, their noble training vanishing in the face of real war. Elias was mopping the grand hall when the first explosion hit. The floor shook, the windows cracked, and he sighed deeply. For a moment, he considered staying hidden. This was not his fight. He was only a janitor now. But then he heard the screams, and his collar slipped open once more. By the time the raiders reached the hall, they found not a janitor, but a shadow of the past. Elias moved with a speed none had ever imagined, his hands seizing a fallen spear. The Oathbound mark along his neck glowed faintly, lines of light racing down his arm. Each strike was precise, each movement honed by decades of silence. Students watched in stunned silence as the quiet human they had mocked tore through the invaders like a storm. The raiders fell one by one, their blades shattering, their leader gasping as Elias pressed the spear to his throat. "Leave," Elias said softly. They did. When it was over, the academy stood in smoke and ruin, but alive. The students gathered in the courtyard, eyes fixed on him. The headmistress stepped forward, her expression unreadable. "You cannot remain in the shadows any longer," she said. "The galaxy will know the Oathbound live." Elias looked at the young faces around him, fearful, awed, but also inspired. For the first time in years, he felt the weight of the oath he had once sworn, the promise that had been buried with his past. "I am no teacher," he said quietly. "Perhaps not," the headmistress replied. "But you are proof that legends walk among us. And sometimes proof is all the young need." Elias exhaled slowly, his gaze drifting to the stars beyond the broken glass dome. He had wanted peace, a quiet life of mops and buckets. But perhaps peace was not the absence of war. Perhaps it was standing so that others could live. He touched the mark on his neck, feeling its faint warmth. The janitor was gone. The Oathbound had returned. And across the galaxy, old enemies stirred, whispering the same words. "He lives."